Welcome to the ancient amphitheatre here in Chester. This is the place where thousands once gathered to watch the very best athletes of their era going toe-to-toe in gladiatorial combat. This weekend we've returned to the Roman city to witness another sporting contest, one not quite as violent but equally as competitive. Welcome to the Chester Deva Triathlon. With a stunning river swim, beautiful bike course around the borders of England and Wales, and a run around the best preserved Roman city in Britain, it's no wonder this event is growing in size and reputation. The city's Roman name of Deva is derived from the River Dee, the start point for this traditional Olympic distance triathlon. So it's a 1,500-metre river swim where knowledge of the currents could prove quite important. Let's take a detailed look at what lies in store as we join our race commentator, Patrick Winterton.
What a venue they have for the Deva Triathlon, but this is more than any old triathlon. It's the Triathlon England National Championships. It's also the age group qualifier for the World Championships, so lots at stake today. A good swim, crucial. The first half upstream, the second half downstream as they head towards T1, off with the wetsuits and onto the bikes for a 40-kilometre non-drafting bike ride. Plenty of marshals out on the course. Most of them are triathletes, all of them are volunteers. The bike ride, crucial, setting themselves up for potentially a good run. Well, as you know, the distance is 10 kilometres, and anyone who can touch 33 minutes has done well. It's a beautiful course, most of it running along the banks of the River Dee. 3 laps to make up the distance, 6 times over the river itself. The atmosphere will be electric. Hundreds of supporters out today.
In most sports, there comes an age where you're no longer young enough to compete at the very highest elite level. But in triathlon, the age group system means there's always something to aim for. This year, Chester doubles up as a British Triathlon age group qualifier event, which means the best here have an opportunity to make it through to the World Championships in Chicago this autumn, or maybe even the Europeans next year in Lisbon. And the lure of an international tri-suit has brought some fascinating athletes here to the Deva. We've been catching up with some of them. Chester's a community club, and classroom assistant Sharon Plested is typical of the kind of person drawn to a sport that offers chances for all.
I've always been really sporty, and when I was younger I used to play a lot of competitive netball, and I actually had trials for England, but I never actually got there to wear that GB kit. And now I've got that opportunity to, wear that GB kit and represent my country. So really excited.
There's always someone on hand to help out with a wetsuit. BBC newsreader Louise Minchin is newer to competitive sport, but has embraced being part of a thriving club. When exercising at home, Minchin's main training partner is a golden Labrador. But the possibly more insightful encouragements of coaching sessions provided by the Chester Club are maybe more valuable as Louise builds for her first full Olympic distance event.
I did my first triathlon about 2 years ago and just loved it. The thing about triathlon, I think there's something in doing the 3 disciplines, because you're never kind of overtraining in one, you're never going to get bored, and you've got quite a lot to master, so you'll always find something you really enjoy and then something which is challenging, and that's a great thing to do. And I love the training, I love the fact you mix it up. With Chester Triathlon Club, I sort of dip in and dip out because given my work schedule, I can't necessarily be there at the training days or all the different things, but I compete with them, and it's just a great atmosphere. They're really friendly, really helpful, really good at, sharing information, helping you along, and being just immensely encouraging. The kind of where we train and where we swim is just really stunning, and I know the river really well. I've swum in that river loads. I swim in that river with my children, so yeah, it's home turf, and I'm hoping that will in some way help.
Competition in the younger age groups is just as fierce as some of the emerging triathletes look to lay down a foundation for a future career as a full-time professional, and there's no better stepping stone than qualifying for the World Championships. But making it through to Chicago in any age group doesn't come without a unique blend of talent, determination and a little bit of willpower. Loughborough engineering student Angus Smith turned from rugby player to triathlete 2 years ago and immediately qualified for the European Championships, despite having to carry his bike for 3K in the qualifying event. He won the under-20s here last year and 12 months on moves up to the 20 to 24s, along with flatmate, friend and racing rival Daniel Guerrero. The battle between the ambitious youngsters will be one to watch. So Angus, there's some housemate bragging rights at stake this weekend between you guys.
Yeah, it should be a really good race between us. We've both been in pretty good form recently. I've been a bit injured with my running, so Dan's been able to catch up a bit on that front. But it'll be a really interesting race between us, I think.
Do you have an edge over Dan when it comes to the swim? How does it work in terms of who's got the strengths and weaknesses across the three?
Generally we're pretty even in the pool. Sometimes if we're each having a good day then we'll beat each other. As soon as we get onto the bike then usually I manage to make up a bit of time on Dan because I've got a bit more bike strength, and then when we get onto the run it's whoever's there. Apparently
he's a little bit better on the bike.
Yeah, so I'm expecting to come out the swim a similar sort of time, and then I'll probably expect to see Angus go down the road a little bit, but hopefully I'll be able to peg him so he's not too far away and maybe be able to close him down on the run. Could lead to quite an exciting finish.
So the first wave is just moments away here in Chester. Let's get over to your commentator, Patrick Winterton.
All the early starters in the water, and you can see from the lineup that many favouring what is known as the left-hand side of the river as we look at the picture, and they'll be looking for a little bit of protection from the current. The one place you don't want to be is in the middle of the stream. That's where the river is deepest, the current is strongest, and already those in the centre are dropping back. Couple of quick swimmers on the left-hand side as we look at it. Now, the two Loughborough flatmates both in this first wave, Smith and Guerrero, and they'll both be looking for the advantage on the first leg. But the current leader with an impressive lead, Edward Castro, has had an astonishing start to the swim. And we saw him swim well last year. It's the same story this time round. The lead at least 25 metres.
With only a precious few qualifying slots for each age group, the action when the first of the women got underway was no less frenetic. With no drafting on the bike, there's everything to gain for a strong swimmer who can break away from the pack. Amongst the men, that exact situation was developing. Edward Castro racing in the 25 to 29s, putting in a mighty 16:47 swim that was a full minute ahead of anyone else. It was impressive, but the strain was showing as he puffed and panted into transition 1. A performance like that puts you under pressure. Joe Bands was the next man out. Another strong swim in the D. But the leader Castro was already unracking and running for the mount point. After the swim specialists came the flood into transition. Loughborough's Angus Smith, as predicted, coming out of the water ahead of training partner Daniel Guerrero. The effort of his 18-minute 41 swim was showing as he made the climb up from the river. Though there seemed to be a bit more air in the lungs once he was pushing out onto the road, with a crucial 1 minute 40-second lead over Guerrero going into the 40k bike ride. Both Smith and Guerrero train over 15 hours a week, as well as studying and operating a coaching business together. But when the race is on, the friendship is off. Edward Castro had no company, still out front and apparently just as strong on the road as in the river. But could he hold this tempo for another 90 minutes? Chester Triathlon Club has a popular women's only triathlon known as the Deva Divas, a former British triathlon event of the year. But no doubt today's Queen of the River is Hannah Lord, In 17 minutes 49, she puts in the 5th fastest swim out of all men and women and maintains an equally blistering pace through transition onto the bike. She works as a nanny in her day job, but isn't sparing the rod on rivals like Alice Jenkins and Caroline Higgins, who are chasing her down. Louise Minchin's swim of 23 minutes 42 isn't shabby either, though the first few steps on dry land are a shock.
Really hard. Really hard.
In transition, there's time for some nutrition and a hint of a smile, as the newsreader put into play the race tips learnt in the Chester coaching sessions. Clubmate Sharon Plested is 5 minutes slower in the swim, though she's already qualified for the Worlds at another event. In a sport of details, forgetting the number belt is a basic error. But there's time to make it up on the bike though, where we rejoin the race leaders with your commentator, Patrick Winterton.
Spinning the wheels nicely is Angus Smith, one of the 2 Loughborough students who've made an appearance here today. He's had a good swim, 18:41, very impressive, and he's up front in the 2024 category. Both these 2 men, Gillam and Lawton, in the 25 to 29 age group, and there's going to be really stiff competition. They, of course, are chasing Edward Castro, who had a sensational swim, sub 17 minutes. Now, this is Ian Gillan, who's flying on the bike, comes from Dorchester, although he's moved to Alicante so he can train full-time. And I tell you what, the non-drafting format suits him because he's probably the strongest cyclist out there, well capable of going over 40 kilometres an hour for the whole distance. And this is the man that he's chasing, Edward Castro, leading after the swim. He's brilliant in the water, great on the bike, not so strong on the run. Will he be able to hang on today?
Welcome back to the Chester Deva Triathlon. 1,300 athletes have gathered to take on this unique and historic course. Some are aiming simply to finish, but for others the prize would be a place in the European or World Championship age group races. Whatever their motives, amongst triathletes this is known as a classic race in a classical setting. The race is organised by Chester Triathlon Club, a group that's open to all and which attracts a wide range of athletes, from first-timers to the more ambitious, many competing here for qualifying slots at the Age Group World Championships in Chicago. Amongst them Sharon Plested, putting in an honest effort on the bike, as is everyone in this non-drafting 40 kilometres second stage. BBC News reader Louise Minchin is another Chester Triathlon Club member, racing faster and further every year.
I've come 3rd or 4th in pretty much most of the triathlons I've done in my age group. That's the thing I love about triathlon, is they judge you in your age group. If you can come 1st, 2nd, 3rd or 4th in a qualifier in your age group, then you can qualify for the World Championships, and I just think that would be totally amazing and fun if I could do that.
Not bad for a man turning 70, David Abrams is battling for a GB age group slot too. A survivor of prostate cancer and DVT, he was advised to keep fit by his doctor, took up triathlon and has already raced internationally. His wife Sandra has beaten breast cancer and is also an international competitor who, like David, enjoys every moment of the pre-race familiarisation days.
The consultant, I did ask about the running, and the consultant said the more exercise you do, the better. And so I thought, great, triathlon's perfect, we'll do that. A lot of people, when they retire, end up in a situation where they're just with older people. But luckily with triathlon, you meet a lot of younger people as well and make friends with those too. And they don't mind you, they accept you. Even though you're old enough to be their dad or perhaps even their granddad, some of them, they still accept you, which is really nice. It's the 3rd time we've done Deva. And we're doing it because it's a qualifier and we want to qualify for the 77-4 age group next year, and the Europeans, we're hoping to qualify for that.
In the women's race, Hannah Lord looks on course for international qualification too, leading all women in all age groups. First out of the water, she still leads on the bike, but can this impressive all-out effort continue onto the run? In the 25 to 29 men's event, Edward Castro too has led all the way so far. After another powerhouse performance in the D, and with a solid 61-minute bike under his tri-belt, there's going to be a lot of looking over his shoulder, as well as at the fantastic scenery on Chester's historic city centre 10K. In the 20 to 24s, Angus Smith still leads the way after a 61-minute ride. The Loughborough student has prepared his race notes well.
Last year I did 2 hours and 2 minutes, so I'm hoping to dip under the 2 hour mark this year, so fingers crossed if all goes well.
Fellow student Daniel Guerrero has held the gap on the bike though, and he's now got 10k in which to make up the 2 minutes on his flatmate, or there could be a lot of washing up to do when they get back home to Loughborough. He's running out of transition 2 in a way that suggests he can do it.
If I want to beat him, 2 hours is a big mark to aim for. It's a big mark for anybody to aim for. So it's going to be hard work, but hopefully I can do it.
All the drills, swim sessions, big rides and track intervals come down to this 10k of seriously hard work on the racecourse. Time to rejoin your commentator, Patrick Winterton.
Edward Castro still out on his own. All the benefits of swimming well earlier on today. 1 look over his shoulder, 2. Now, most coaches will tell you not to look back, but in this case, knowledge might mean power. But when he sees these 2 coming, he might just go weak at the knees, because this is a fantastic performance by Lawton and Gillen, who've been working together for a while now. Castro moving nicely, but certainly not as fast as the 2 chasers, Lawton and Gillen. In the women's race, Deary's having a very good day out there. Lost 5 minutes or so to Lord in the swim, but has lost nothing since then. Great competition in the women's field, and there's no doubt that there's a feel-good factor here in Chester. If you're going to choose a first-time triathlon, this, for many reasons, is an excellent one to go for. Hannah Lord showing everyone how it should be done. Former swimmer, of course, and gets used to being in front after that first phase. Deary still working hard, but not managing to close that gap. All the profits, incidentally, from this triathlon, as we see Angus Smith, are going towards Chester Triathlon Club. They go towards grassroots triathlon. And one of their main priorities is bringing on the youngsters, bringing on the newcomers. That surely is the way to get the sport to grow. Guerrero from Loughborough chasing Angus Smith, but he's trailing him badly at the moment. And Sharon Plested, one of the Chester triathletes who is racing today. Many of them are out there on the course, working as marshals and volunteers. Louise Minchin, only her 5th triathlon, incidentally, and certainly her first of this distance, so she's had a good day so far, but the run is her least favoured discipline. She's got 10,000 metres to go. Remember, this is all about the age groupers, a qualifying race for the World Championships in Chicago, and Minchin is going for that as well. She needs a top 4 at the moment. She's some way outside that mark. But remember, it's her first Olympic distance triathlon, so they will get better as she gets more experience. Beautiful scenery along the banks of the River Dee, which of course plays part of the border for England and Wales, but not in Chester itself, very much in England. This is David Abrams in the 65-69 category. He's one of the oldest in that category, and I know he's looking forward to next year when he moves up to 70-74, and he'll be looking to qualify for the World Championships in 2016. He runs for Stubbington Green Runners. Well, there's nothing green about David. He knows everything there is to know about triathlon, and he's moving very nicely. He's got a little way to go, but the first wave have started to approach the line, and we're about to find out who's going to win the battle of the flatmates, and it will be Angus Smith, who's had an excellent run.
Really good day out, tough course, but yeah, it was great fun. Enjoyed it.
Coming through here on the run, it was just such a boost, all of the people just clapping it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the marshals are great at this. They're all cheering you on. You go to some races and they just sort of stood there pointing you where to go, but here they're all clapping, all cheering you on, shouting your names because they can read them off the numbers. It's great. I love this event.
Were you getting information that you were catching him?
I had my mum out watching, so she was saying he's just ahead. I wasn't quite sure who he was until the last lap, where I knew I was in the lead then. It was just a case of trying to keep the foot on the pedal because you never know what people are going to do in the later waves.
3 good disciplines from Lawton, good enough to beat Gillam, who takes second.
How good is it to know that Chicago is ticked and it's game on?
It's nice. It gives me a good amount of time to go back home and to train sort of solidly till September and without any other distractions, which is nice, and not have to do any more qualification races, which is good.
Did you have to dig in a little bit when first and second went past you? Because obviously you were determined to finish in the top 3 and get on the podium.
Yeah, they just came flying past me. Unbelievably running, unbelievable runners. I just had to try and hold on.
So those were the top 3 men in the 25-29. In the women's event, it's all been about Hannah Lord. After a 17:49 swim, she's led all the way.
Over the moon with my performance today. I knocked, I think, about 6 minutes off last year's time, if not more, so really happy.
Wow, what are you hoping for at Chicago?
An age group win would be nice.
Deary, who matched Lord in the bike and the run, has had a really good day out, just needs to improve the swim a little. But this is an event that has some really nice touches.
The name on the number belt thing's so good, because everyone just is like, go Caroline, and you're like, how do you know who I am?
So great atmosphere and so many people trying to qualify for the World Championships, but everyone here is concerned about producing a result better than their previous one.
Oh, I really enjoyed that, every section of it. 2:33.42, I am chuffed to bits. Over the moon.
Is that a PB?
It is definitely a PB. I've knocked about 20 minutes off. So I just can't believe it.
Well, that is some margin. And there's no doubt that Louise Minchin's going to have a PB for this distance because it's the first time she's ever done it. Just a few metres to go.
Well, Louise, that was superb.
I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with that. 23:42 on the swim. Yes. 1:18 on my bike, which is good, which is really, 1:15 I would have loved, but I mean 1:18 is quite fast, isn't it? And then the run for me, 52, which for me is, you know, my running's is tough for me, so that's good. When you're out there, it's tougher than you think, but when you finish, it's worth it.
David Abrams has produced a very respectable running time, but it's about much more than times here in Chester.
It's open to all. That's what's so wonderful about triathlon. Open to everyone, it's friendly. This is one of the most friendly events. It just really is exciting.
David's wife Sandra coming in towards the finish in a triathlon that saw some really tough competition at the sharp end, but it's about inclusion, involvement and encouragement, and Sandra epitomising all of that.
Well, the team here in Chester have laid on another superb day of triathlon, and all 1,300 competitors can go home with some great memories from a brilliant race. And as for the chosen few, their thoughts can now turn to the Age Group World Championships in Chicago come September. We'll see you next year. Bye for now.